And oh, let me say this too. And I need this emphasized, please. The
Mhm.
critical issue of what we're trying to do, we are not trying to help every sex offender come to Europe.
Oh yeah.
No.
Hmm.
And we have met people, we know people who never got their lives straightened out and don't even see
Hmm.
anything wrong with what they did, one of whom we kicked out a couple of weeks
Hmm.
ago. I don't want to help those people.
No,
I
no.
don't. But what we're after are those people who got it right, the
Hmm.
ones that the law literally considers
Right.
rehabilitated, the ones who
Exactly.
okay, you ever, because and that's where I get upset about the term sex offender. Sex offender implies that this person is an ongoing this. If you
Yeah.
say that I'm
Yep.
white, yes, I'm going to be white my whole life. If you
Right.
call me a man, yeah, I'm going to be a man my whole life.
Right.
But to call me a
Hmm.
sex offender because it's something that happened 28 years ago
Yeah. Exactly.
is absurd. That's
It
not who I
is.
am today. So the label doesn't apply.
Yes. And yeah,
And
I will say that from my perspective too. No, I completely agree with you. And I do not like believe that like I like to think that everybody has the capacity for rehabilitation within their soul at some point, like as a religious kind of belief. But I do know some people are dangerous, continue to be dangerous, mainly because they have no remorse and they continue to think what they did is right. I completely
correct,
agree with that. And
correct.
so and I think that I also one thing that I've run into sometimes is so actually in the US, well, not in the US per se, but have you ever heard of the American Law Institute before?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they're like one of the most important legal organizations in the US, but they don't make laws, they don't have binding power, but they're
Correct.
like, the Council of Sages, basically. They basically said we should trim down the registry as well as make it private to law enforcement only, which
I
is like
did
some
read that. I actually read that document.
right, exactly. And so, like, obviously, DOJ and like all these state attorney generals like flip shit and convinced ALI to modify it slightly. But the private registry idea, rather than public, is still there and is finalized. And so, when I was talking to somebody who is I guess, once prominent registrant who, committed statutory rape when he was 19 in Virginia and then got civilly committed and got out or whatever. He was like, we or I, and I'm forgetting his name. What is his name?
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't
You
say it.
probably know who this guy is,
Don't
actually,
say
but
it. If he comes out
yeah.
of Virginia, yeah, I know exactly who he is.
Yeah, so the point is, I don't know, if what his if he could doesn't think he did anything wrong or whatever, but I do know that he thinks there shouldn't even be any private registry, and he thinks that it should all just be like a race,
Well,
basically.
that's not realistic because we have registries of driver's license. We have registries of
Exactly.
financial deeds. Stop. So stop with the
Well, and also the
craziness that we need to
criminal
abolish
criminal
everything.
record still exists. I mean, that's the thing that's so crazy
And
about it too.
should, but they should
Right,
exist.
right. No, for sure. And one of the things that was so frustrating seeing the DOJ clap back to ALI was they were like, "Oh, how will we notice to screen applicants for volunteering jobs with children?" It's like, do a criminal background check, and they're like, "Oh, but wouldn't it cost them too much money? Like the YMCA too much money?" No, it costs like $30.
Okay, but wait a second. Would it cost the YMCA too much money? Okay, you're balancing $30. Sorry, Oro. You're
Yeah,
balancing $30 against my rights.
right. Like your right to exist as a human being. Right. Exactly.
I got into this argument with my brother. He was visiting recently, and
Mm-hmm.
I love my brother. Good man, very
Mm-hmm.
intelligent man. He is far
Mm-hmm.
right. He is far on the
Yeah.
right. And his
Mm-hmm.
opposition to gay marriage is that it would raise his insurance premiums because they would have to provide insurance to the partners. So wait a second. You're telling me that my right to marry the person I love is balanced against it might cost you an extra $5 on your insurance?
And I understand that it was NECMEC that sent this letter, but they basically were of course, right? And they were like, "Oh, but what if it's a small volunteer organization?" I'm like, literally, you go on to FBI background check website. I checked this, and you can file for a waiver of fee for hardship. So literally, they're just full of shit, right? I mean, like it's
But
an
see,
animus.
but that's what's happened in court. We know that the
Right.
statistics that the Supreme Court have been using to
Yep.
sustain the registry are false.
Right.
If you look on the Florida Department of Corrections website, and they have a statistics page, you can see that sex offenders have the lowest rate of recidivism of all criminals in the Department of Corrections. We don't want to talk about that.
Well, and I've seen the growing argument that I've seen both on criminal justice reform issues in general, like especially when I was doing the progressive prosecutor stuff, but also the registry stuff, is like, oh, what about unreported offenses, or what about the police not taking action? And it's like, you can't tell. I mean,
What about
you could say that about
reports? What about exaggerated prosecutions? Come on, we can
Right.
go both ways on this.
Exactly.
And if you're really concerned about that, how is it that someone who merely possesses child pornography, no contact with the child, is barred from living within 1,000 feet of a school for the rest of their lives? But if I murder a child in a school, I can move right next door to the school when I get out of prison.
Oh yeah, of course.
Where's
right.
the logic? Where's the logic?
You're right. And of course, like if in that case, if somebody rapes the child before murdering them, like who would know?
Oh, have you seen my video on that issue?
I haven't now.
All of the top laws that you can name, particularly in Florida, but it's also federal, that create these new laws strengthening restricting the freedom of sex offenders, are based on horrific crimes,
murders,
where the children were kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and then murdered. But they're not making these laws against kidnappers and murderers. They're only focusing on the sex offenses. Now, here's the crazy one. Here's the crazy one nobody's talking about, and it's pissing me off. The Adam Walsh Child Protection Act. Adam was kidnapped. Adam was murdered. There is no evidence he was sexually assaulted, but that is the only thing we talk about.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess like I forgot that, because like a lot of the other ones, like Megan Kanka, I think, was raped. But like Adam wasn't, and the bill was named after him.
Wasn't. There's no evidence that he was. And that's all his dad talks about. And God forbid his dad has made, last I checked, like 20 million a year.
Holy shit.
On this bullshit.
Because he's the American's Most Wanted guy, right?
Yeah. And now his brother, who was born after his death, after Adam's death, is on that council, and his salary is like 10 million a year. You can look it up. It's online. Shit. It's like, come on.
Yeah, money is definitely part of this. You know, I think. I mean, it definitely is, but like, again, part of the reason I'm coming to Europe is because now I can run my mouth all I want, because somebody has got to talk about these things. Right. It's not safe to talk about it in the States.
Oh, no, they'd have shot me already in the US.
Right.
Or
I mean, especially if you're on the registry. I mean, like, even like there was a time, and I thought about writing an article about it, but like, you know, they were still doing deliberations. And I also didn't want to have the opposite effect of like inspiring people to do violence. But basically, like when I saw the DOJ and NCMEC letters, and they even did a social media campaign that was extremely inflammatory, I was like, they're going to get like some of America's top judges and stuff murdered over this. Like, I actually thought, like, I was like, this is an incitement to violence. Essentially. And thank God, like, it didn't happen, but like because then I think no one would ever talk about it again who was not directly impacted, and directly impacted people already have to fear their lives,
you know.
So
I gave three sorry.
No, I was
your interview. It's your interview. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're great. I have a tendency to ramble, but basically, yeah. So all of this is true. I think that you know, if you're interested, it's still in a rough form right now, but like I'm happy to share with you the Google document of the article as I work on it. Like I already have 20 pages or so.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, I would absolutely read it.
Yeah, so I mean, well, so one, okay, sorry, I should have probably, so this is like this is not like a pop media article. This is an academic article geared toward like a legal professional audience.
Yeah, and I see where you publish.
Right. So I publish in both pop media, but I've also published in academic journals. So this would be an academic piece. I would publish it in like an international or comparative law journal, just to get other academics to start thinking about it, as well as lawyers who read these. And also, I would want to send this article to like, other, like registrant groups to try to inspire, basically them to be like, hey, like this, like maybe I will go file for asylum, basically, because I think that if more people do get asylum, like basically, I do think that it will become it will probably increase the chances of like somebody filing in European Court of Human Rights, them affirmatively saying, yes, the US registry does in fact violate at least Article 8, if not Article 3. And that essentially then basically
but you're limiting yourself. Let's back up, because I think something needs to be clarified.
Oh yeah.
If one person, my case, makes the determination, in my case, the determination is made that the American registry violates blase squaze, there wouldn't need to be any further asylum cases. People could simply come over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there would be no need to file asylum, because the court has already determined if you're on that registry, your rights have been violated.
Right. But just
keep in mind,
in Germany, though, right?
No, that's EU wide. We're the EU. Once a court in the EU makes a decision, that's it. It's binding in all the other nations.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Precedent, it's binding. So, but the point,
right.
But I mean, we have a comprehensive plan as to what we're doing. And I attacked certain parts of the registry. And once the court makes the determination on those parts, there are other things that need to be raised. There is a case that I am cultivating in the United States where I don't want the man, the man who's on the registry, I don't want him to seek asylum. I want his wife to seek asylum. Because merely by virtue of the person she loves, she's on the registry. Her home is on the registry. Her car is on the registry. How does the American legislature have the right to punish her?
Right.
She's done nothing wrong. If they had children.
Her children, if they, but like,
well, that's a whole different story. So we need to clarify that that's what we're talking about. But I also think that you might want to look at a couple other articles. I do not have them in front of me. I only have Article 8.
Oh yeah, if you could send them, that would be super great. And I'm totally happy to like potentially reframe, like what basically like what avenue my article is like recommending for like relief,
or don't limit yourself to one article.
Right, that's true too. This is definitely a start. Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's a book to be written here. If I had the time,
yes,
I would. I've written one book. I've kind of got the outline of a second one done. More than
that's awesome.
But I would love to actually walk through the ECHR step by step and explain what is what, why is why. But I kind of need my ruling to be done. Don't forget that it is considered a basic human right to be able to travel freely within one's own country.
And you can't do that basically because of all the because you need distance restrictions, as well as like a lot of states like ban.
You have to have permission in Florida. You have to have permission 48 hours before you leave your home to go anywhere.
Oh wow. Yeah, Florida definitely, you would probably agree with me that Florida has one of the most draconian systems, right?
At the moment, but there are other states trying desperately to catch up.
I see.
There is also the human right that every human being has the right to leave their own country.
Yes.
Now, the United States,
which the US is trying to stop, basically.
No, the United States is not stopping people from leaving the country. They're making sure you cannot get into the next country.
Well, isn't that kind of a de facto way of trying to stop travel, though?
We're arguing it.
Yeah.
I cannot argue it. I personally cannot argue it because I literally left 1 week before the IML went into effect for fear of the IML. So I'm going to have somebody, and I'm cultivating someone.
But you do know that, so you do have information, you do have like evidence that the IML is not stopping people from entering Europe, though, right?
Europe. Now,
That makes sense.
one of the things that our lawyers are doing, and one of the reasons we're reaching out to the Netherlands and Denmark, is that we don't want all of these sex offenders coming through Frankfurt International Airport and settling in my town.
Right.
It's not looking good because
right. It'll freak people out. Yeah.
German immigration is decentralized. So if one office gets overloaded, all of a sudden they're going to contact headquarters and say, hey, it's this lawyer who's helping do it. It's this community where it's happening. Do we need a policy? Should we put a policy together?
Right.
We don't want that. So we're trying to spread them out throughout Europe, not just here. And, once we have the court ruling, then if we need to be a little more assertive, we can. That's the other half of what we're doing. Once that court ruling comes down, it's going to make the news. It's going to. We would rather be one step ahead. Meaning, go to the politicians and say, look, this is going to happen whether you like it or you don't like it. So let's put together a program where we help these people come in, get integrated, get plugged into society, get the mental health treatment that they need, that they cannot get in the United States, because we all know what it is in the US.
Right.
And get them into language school, and let's integrate these people. Let's educate the public as to why this is necessary. Because if you say to a European
sex offender,
it has a totally different meaning than it has to an American. To an American, it means horrible things, and everything is a sex offense. If it's not heterosexual between two married people over the age of 30, it's illegal.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're going to jail. You're going to jail. Whereas in Europe, if you say sex offender, they're thinking, oh my God, this dude like raped a woman with a knife.
Right, like actual dangerous sex.
Actual dangerous. Because if you say to somebody, oh, well, like me, you take me for example, did you see you don't watch my videos, I'm assuming.
I've seen a couple,
right,
but I haven't watched
one. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Did you happen to see the one about me getting kicked out of the flying school?
No.
Okay. I joined a flying club just up the mountain where I live, not 5 minutes from here. And somebody reported me as being on the sex offender registry in the United States, and I was expelled from the club. They sent me a nice letter. They sent me a nice letter. Hear that. It was a nicely worded letter. It was very kind. And I challenged saying, well, wait a minute. You're kicking me out. You never asked my side of the story.
Right.
And so I asked for the permission to rebut. Not only did they do that, they invited me out to dinner. We had a sit down with the board of directors. My boss from my job came with me. We sat down. I laid out all the German court documents. I said, this is the truth. And they're like, you were with a 15-year-old? Yes. How old are you? 21.
Right.
But why did you go to prison? No, that's why I went to prison. And they couldn't wrap their heads around it. And they were like, oh, screw that. And they literally publicly reversed themselves. And I am flying in the club. That would not have happened in the United States.
No.
So the perception of how the Europeans are viewing this is as to how the Americans are viewing it, night and day. Night and day. Because the people that the Europeans consider sex offenders, I don't want them in my neighborhood either.
Right, exactly. Like actual dangerous people. Yeah.
Actual dangerous people.
While, depending on the European country, I think that the Eastern countries are more prone to panic in politics when it comes to hard issues. Well, look at what happened with Hungary. They just made talking about LGBT stuff in front of kids a crime, and you can't have gay characters on TV.
Oh, I'm sorry. What about Florida last week that is now publishing letters to parents saying that your child has a gay student in their classroom?
Oh God, no!
Leon County, Florida.
Wow. Well, yeah, and so so Hungary actually passed its own don't say gay law basically. At the same time,
they're following Florida. They literally
right.
Florida.
It's crazy. But when
you say East, Romania is very liberal when it comes to that. That's where that's where Europeans go for boy prostitution. I say boy meaning teenagers.
Like teenagers,
Czech Republic, everybody's going there to party. Slovenia, they're all going. Slovakia,
right.
So
but I guess
let's not lump all Eastern European nations.
That's true. That is true.
It's not. I don't know that would be fair.
I'm really thinking of Poland and Hungary. Basically, Poland has the most onerous registry so far, and then Hungary actually it was hard to like find a translated version
Okay,
of the bill
but
from 2021, but it may actually be worse than Poland's.
think about what we've been talking about.
Hmm.
If the German court issues a ruling that these registries are violations
Are
of human
legal.
rights, we have the ammunition that all we need against Hungary and Poland.
Right.
So there, I mean, there is a game plan here.
So from my understanding, and I could be wrong, the way it works is basically like if you get a precedent on a human rights, like a convention question in one country, you can use that precedent in another country. I guess it's like basically binding. Like
it's
that
certainly
right?
Persuasive case law at a minimum. But if it had to go into, you know, I'm happy for it to go into the European High Court. Okay, I'll take that fight.
Right.
And you know, just like with the it's like if we talk about, and I try to stay very realistic, I try to stay objective, not always easy, but if we can get this case into Strasbourg, if we can get it into the Human Rights Court, and file a complaint against the United States, the question is, what do we actually hope to gain?
Right.
Because is the United States going to change its policy? Not the way it's headed right now. Right now,
probably
the United
not.
States is headed toward a dictatorship. It's headed toward this totalitarianism. Could we sue for financial compensation? That's not recompense. That's not the word I'm looking for. Remuneration. Can we seek remuneration or compensatory damages? Maybe. But at least we would be able to have all the ammunition we needed to create a haven here in Europe. And it's Europe right now that I'm trying to preserve. I cannot fix. I do not believe it can be fixed in the United States. But what we can do is create a place for those people to come.
Right. That makes sense. I guess my fear is like, what if Europe goes, what you like, there's already fears that Poland and Hungary and a few other countries are like turning away from democracy and human rights, basically. Like,
so's the US.
I guess that's true. I mean, I doubt that all of Europe is going to go in that direction. Like, yeah, that they know better than that.
And even then, let's see what happens, because even now Britain is regretting pulling out.
Right.
And now that they know the man behind it, Boris, was an absolute joke.
Yeah.
That's what you get when you hire clowns to be your politicians.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, you're right. Like, I think, yeah, like being strategically smart about this is important, but ultimately, you know, these are questions of human rights, and human rights frameworks are not going away in Europe anytime soon. So, yeah.
And again, it's, forgive me for repeating myself, but if we use these to build bricks of precedence, we can build a protective wall to keep that craziness out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Well, how about this? Like, I'll send you the drafts that I'm working with right now, and I'd be happy with you, like, if you are interested and have time, if you want to like leave comments or anything on it, give me advice, like direction to take it, like that would be super helpful. It's still in a very much like rough draft kind of stage, and I'm very open to taking it into a somewhat different direction based on your like personal experience and expertise, because like you're the one who's like fighting this fight on the ground, and it's like it directly impacts you, and then like on my end, on top of continuing to think about these issues and working on this article, I'm going to ask my friend who is a criminology PhD student in Germany if she'd be willing to translate these briefs for me, because I don't have like
easy. No, they're not easy. It's a different German.
She's fluent and an academic type.
Where is she at? What city?
She was in Tübingen. I don't remember if that's where she did her master's. I think she's still there for a PhD, but I'm not positive.
In Tübingen?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's near me.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yes. That's a local train ride.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Okay. It's a beautiful little town too. I won't call it a city. It's a beautiful little town. Let me say this, and I'm flattered that you don't think I'm a nutcase and that you're willing to let me comment on your work.
Of course.
I'm absolutely interested.
Awesome.
I want to write a book on this. on these issues, not me on these issues. When you decide that you want to take that route, let me know.
Okay, sounds good. I will.
Because it's going to happen at some point.
Yes, that's awesome. I would love to help with that in any way I can.
So yeah, we can definitely absolutely work on that, because I am, in my gut, I truly believe that we are talking about human rights, and I think it is a matter of time before they start stripping registrants of their personal property, and at some point stripping them of their lives. We already have concentration camps, and they're called civil commitment centers.
Right, that's true.
Only a matter of time. Let's not be doomed to repeat history.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way.
I am concerned.
Yeah,
and we know that when the religious nuts get in charge, they will drown witches and they will burn heretics at the stake. Will do it.
That's how it's always been.
So it's going to come. History's a cycle. But let's at least do our part to stop it.
Definitely.
Or slow it down or something.
Or at least have somewhere for people to flee, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Until sanity is restored.
Yeah, and you know, it's I'll say that, like, you know, I thought about this earlier and I thought about it again. I find it very stupid and silly, and just like an example of how skilled the US is at imperialism, that like not that I say that I agree with these, like, you know, the like nations domestic policies on this, but like the fucking age of consent in like Mexico is like 12 in Mexico, at least in Mexico City district. In Japan, it's 13. And like, they're like, oh my God, the person who had sex with a 17-year-old in California, like they can never come to our country.
Oh, and that
like,
person is ruined for life. Yeah.
Yeah, but be worried about your own and your own fucking battle.
And I'm not trying to justify these things, because I think the protections need to be there. I really
do. Sure. I think that's true.
But
like, the thing,
don't tell me that some 13-year-old boy who wanted his first blowjob, that his life was ruined because he got a blowjob from his neighbor.
Right. For sure. Well, and I'm just saying that like these nations should be fucking consistent. Like they're I feel like basically what like Japan or Mexico is saying is like, oh, we're fine with it as long as it's one of our own teenagers. Basically, right? Like what the fuck is that? Like, it's not about child protection. It's about like fucking nationalism.
But Europe, at least so far, is practicing what it's preaching.
Exactly.
They are. So far, I can't speak for the future, and I'm not speaking for every country. But the countries that I have any association with, which is mostly Central and Northern Europe, they're not on that nonsense. They are not on that nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're the bastions of human rights. Let's keep it that way.
And they had to earn it.
They did earn it. Obviously, Germany's past is very dark, but like
I need to write a book. Forgive me for eating up your time, but there's one other thing I want to mention. I was in Denmark last year, one of my second trip, I think it was, to Denmark, and I was in the hotel lobby, and being honest, I was flirting with the front clerk, who started telling me a story about Denmark I had never heard before. And when the Nazis when the German military rolled into Denmark and took over, I mean, that military couldn't withstand that, you know, the might of the German nation. And they installed, you know, a governor and this, that, and the other. The governor, who was an ardent Nazi and one of the early members of the Nazi party, actually didn't agree with the whole anti-Jew thing, and went to the chief rabbi in Copenhagen and said, hey, there's going to be a roundup of Jews on Monday. I'm just saying. Yeah. And from Friday until Sunday night, Passover, all Danish people smuggled something like 100,000 Jews out of Denmark across the channel into Sweden overnight. And it is one of the things they are so proud of. I've researched that story. Love that story, because that's what we're going to end up having to do with the sex offenders, with the registrants. It's going to come down to the fact that at some point we've got to get them out to a safe haven. Right. And I just don't understand how other people aren't seeing it the way I'm seeing it, but they don't.